The Vultee A-31 Vengeance was an American dive bomber of World War II, built by Vultee Aircraft. A modified version was designated A-35. The Vengeance was not used operationally by the United States, but was operated as a frontline aircraft by the British Royal Air Force, the Royal Australian Air Force, and the Indian Air Force in Southeast Asia and the Southwest Pacific. The A-31 remained in service with U.S. units until 1945, primarily in a target tug role. Design and development. In 1940, Vultee Aircraft started the design of a single-engined dive bomber, the Vultee Model 72, V-72, to meet the requirements of the French Armée de l'Air. The V-72 was built with private funds and was intended for sale to foreign markets. The V-72 was a low-wing, single-engine monoplane with a closed cockpit and a crew of two. An air-cooled radial right twin Cyclone GR2600A5B5 engine rated at 1,600 HP, 1,200 kilowatts, powered the V-72. It was armed with both fixed forward-firing and flexible mounted .30 in, 7.62 mm, machine guns in the rear cockpit. The aircraft also carried up to 1,500 pounds, 680 kilograms, of bombs in an interior bomb bay and on external wing racks. The Vengeance was uniquely designed to dive vertically without lift from the wing, pulling the aircraft off target. To this end, it had a 0 degrees angle of incidence on the wing to better align the nose of the aircraft with the target during the dive. This resulted in the aircraft cruising in a nose-up attitude, giving a poor forward view for the pilot, particularly during landing. It had an unusual, W-shaped wing planform. This resulted from an error in calculating its center of gravity. Moving the wing back by sweeping the center section was a simpler fix than redesigning the wing root. This gives the impression of an inverted gull wing when seen from an angle, when in fact the wing has a more conventional dihedral on the outer wing panels. France placed an order for 300 V-72s, with deliveries intended to start in October 1940. The fall of France in June 1940 stopped these plans, but at the same time the British Purchasing Commission, impressed by the performance of the German Junkers Ju-87, was shopping for a dive bomber for the Royal Air Force, and as it was the only aircraft available, placed an order for 200 V-72s, named Vengeance by Vultee, on July 3, 1940, with orders for a further 100 being placed in December. As Vultee's factory at Downey was already busy building BT-13 Valiant trainers, the aircraft were to be built at the Stinson factory at Nashville, and under license by Northrop at Hawthorne, California. The first prototype V-72 flew from Vultee's factory at Downey, California, on March 30, 1941. Additional aircraft were ordered for Britain in June 1941 under the Lend-Lease scheme, with these being given the U.S. Army Air Corps designation A-31. After the U.S. entered the war following the attack on Pearl Harbor, a number of V-72 and A-31 aircraft were repossessed for use by the USAF. As the USAF became interested in dive bombing, it decided to order production of an improved version of the Vengeance, designated the A-35, for both its own use and for supply to its allies under Lend-Lease. It was fitted with a more powerful right twin Cyclone R2600-19 engine and improved armament. As U.S. Army test pilots disliked the poor pilot view resulting from the zero-incidence wing, this was corrected in the A-35, giving a better attitude in cruise but losing its accuracy as a dive bomber. When production of the Vengeance was completed in 1944, a total of 1,931 aircraft had been produced. The majority were produced at the Vultee plant in Nashville, Tennessee. Indecision about which aircraft type should replace it in production at the Vultee plant led to several make-work contracts for Vengeance aircraft to prevent dispersion of the skilled workforce. This resulted in overproduction of what was considered an obsolete aircraft. Evaluation. Operational experience with other dive bomber aircraft of the period, such as the Blackburn Skua, Junkers Ju-87 Stuka, Aichi D-3A Val, Douglas Dauntless, Breda BA.65 and Curtiss SB-2C Helldiver, indicated that the Vengeance would be vulnerable to enemy fighters. To be effective, All these aircraft required an environment of local air superiority and fighter escort. Fighter escort and lack of fighter opposition in the theaters in which it served, combined with its vertical dive capability, meant that the Vengeance suffered light combat losses. Early experience with the aircraft showed that there were problems with engine cooling. In service, the British managed to solve these problems, but Free French aircraft that did not have these problems remedied were declared uneconomical and unreliable to operate and were grounded. The aircraft was described as being stable in flight and in a dive, with heavy elevator and rudder control, but with light aileron control. Forward visibility was considered poor due to the large radial engine. There were a number of fatal accidents with the Vengeance due to improper dive procedures and a center of gravity problem when the aircraft was flown with the rear cockpit canopy open, but without a rear gunner. In combat, the type was considered rugged, reliable, stable, and generally well behaved. Commonwealth forces operated the type from May 1942 to July 1944. Burma tended to be a low priority for Allied air planners, and forces in that theater got what was left over. Aircraft such as the Vickers Wellington and Hawker Hurricane spent their last days in Burma. The Vengeance saw considerable action attacking Japanese supply, communications, and troop concentrations in Burma. Its service in that theater has been described as very effective. Peter Smith, author of Jungle Dive Bombers at War, wrote that their pilots had difficulty in getting them off the ground with a full load. At Newton Field they were using the full length of the 6,000 feet runway before becoming airborne. Kitty Hawk aircraft could carry the same bomb load and in addition carry out ground strafing. In contrast, many crew spoke well of the Vengeance. I certainly didn't have that experience of the Vultee. I can recall no incidents of pilots having difficulty in taking off with full bomb loads, and the Kitty Hawk could not carry the same bomb load even after their undercarriage had been strengthened. I remember the Vultee as a lovely aircraft to fly, an aircraft that was hard to stall and was fully aerobatic. You could do anything in them, rolls, loops, stall turns, and there was enough room in the cockpit to hold a ball. I used to like flying them, although a lot of blokes thought that they were too cumbersome. Operational history. UK and India. By the time that Britain had received large numbers of Vengeances, its opinion on the usefulness of specialized dive bombers had changed. As the Battle of Britain and operations over North Africa had shown the dive bomber to be vulnerable to fighter attack, it rejected the Vengeance for use over Western Europe or the Mediterranean. It was decided to use the Vengeance in the Burma theatre to carry out dive bombing operations in close support of British and Indian troops in the jungles. The first RAF squadrons, number 82 and number 110, received Vengeances in October 1942. The first dive bombing missions against Japanese forces were flown on March 19, 1943. A further 2 RAF squadrons in Burma received Vengeances, number 84 and number 45, together with 2 squadrons of the Indian Air Force, IAF, number 7 and number 8. Vengeances were heavily deployed in support of the Second Arakan Campaign of 1943-44, and defending against the Japanese attacks on Impel and Kohima of April-July 1944. Following the successful defeat of the Japanese attack, the RAF and IAF started to phase out the Vengeance in favor of more versatile fighter bombers and twin-engine light bombers, with the last Vengeance operations over Burma being carried out on July 16, 1944. After Burma service, a detachment from 110 Squadron RAF was sent to Takoradi in West Africa via the Middle East, a number of aircraft breaking down en route. Between September and December 1944, 11 Vultees took part in air spraying trials against malarial mosquitoes, using under-wing spray dispensers. Although phased out of front-line service with the RAF, Britain continued to receive large numbers of Vengeances, with bulk deliveries of Lend-Lease aircraft, as opposed to those purchased directly by Britain, having only just started. Many of these surplus aircraft, including most Vengeance MKIVs, were delivered to the UK and modified as target tugs, being used in this role both by the RAF and the Royal Navy's Fleet Air Arm, FAA. In these roles, all armament was removed from the aircraft. Australia. Australia placed an order for 400 Vengeances as an emergency measure following the outbreak of war in the Pacific, which was met by a mixture of lend-lease and diversions from the original British orders. While the first Vengeance was delivered to the Royal Australian Air Force, RAF, in May 1942, the aircraft did not arrive in substantial numbers until April 1943. The RAF's first Vengeance Squadron, No. 12 Squadron, flew its first operational mission against Sularu Island in the Dutch East Indies. Squadrons equipped with the Vengeance included NOS 12, 21, 23, 24, and 25 squadrons. Of these, all but 25 squadrons served briefly in the New Guinea campaign. Australian Vengeances flew their last operational sorties on March 8, 1944, as they were considered less efficient than fighter bombers, having a short range and requiring a long runway, and were withdrawn to allow more effective fighter bombers to move into the forward area. The Vengeance squadrons were re-equipped with consolidated B-24 Liberator heavy bombers. The view of the Vengeance's limitations is disputed by Peter Smith in Jungle Dive Bombers at War, the precision and skill of the dive bombing method, and its clear superiority over most other means of air attack when it came to destroying small and well-hidden targets in difficult country, was proven over and over again in the Asian jungle campaigns. Yet the men who achieved these excellent results, for such economy of effort and comparatively small loss, were but a handful of pilots who have been forgotten in the overwhelming mass of the heavy and medium bomber fleets that were pounding both Europe and Asia by 1945-160. This capacity was exemplified in the raid by RAF NOS 21 and 23 squadrons on Hansa Bay. Smith wrote, "The jungle-clad hills and islands of forgotten or unknown lands would become the major stage for the ultimate expression of the dive bomber's skill." 12 While the RAF still had 58 Vengeances on order in March 1944, this order was cancelled and the aircraft were never delivered. Small numbers of Vengeances remained in service with support and trials units until 1946. Brazil. 33 V-72S and A-35S were supplied to Brazil from 1943, carrying out a few anti-submarine patrols. They were withdrawn by April 1948. Free French. The Free French Air Force received 67 A-35s and BS in 1943, being used to equip 3 bomb groups in North Africa. The French, however, keen to get the aircraft operational as soon as possible, did not incorporate improvements found necessary by Britain and Australia, so their aircraft proved to be unreliable and had extremely high oil consumption. As such, they were restricted to training operations, being finally withdrawn in September 1944. United States. While the U.S. received 243 V-72S and A-31S diverted from the RAF orders together with large numbers of A-35s specifically built for it, these saw no combat, being used as initial equipment for light bomber squadrons that re-equipped with twin-engine aircraft before deploying overseas, and as trainers or target tugs. From April 1944, a number of Vengeance Mk4 series were made available to the 8th Air Force and assigned to target towing flights and combat crew replacement centers, CCRC, stations. All armament was removed and a light cable winch fitted in the rear fuselage for sleeve towing. Some of these aircraft continued to be flown with British national markings and serial numbers. By late June 1944, there were 7 A-35BS at RAF Clonto, 7 at Greencastle, 10 at RAF Sutton Bridge, and 6 at RAF East Wretham. When the CCRCs were dissolved in the autumn, the A-35BS were transferred to combat groups, most fighter, and several bomber groups, having one on hand at some time during 1945. A-35BS did not show a high state of serviceability and were generally considered troublesome to maintain. They were also designated RA-35B, R for restricted, by this time. Surviving aircraft. One complete Vengeance IA that did not see squadron service, serial number A27-99, EZ999, is displayed at the Camden Museum of Aviation at Narellan, New South Wales, Australia. Components of Vengeance IIA A24-247 are held by the Historic Aircraft Restoration Society, Australia, to form the basis of a restoration project. Variants. RAF variants. Vengeance I. Vultee V72 license built by Northrop and ordered directly for Britain, powered by 1600 HP, 1200 kilowatts, R2600A5B engine. 200 built. Vengeance IA. Northrop-built aircraft purchased under Lend-Lease, powered by 1600 HP, 1200 kilowatts, R2600-19 engine, otherwise similar to Vengeance I USAF designation A31 No. 200 built. Vengeance II. Vultee-built aircraft directly purchased by Britain. Small differences from Vengeance I 501 built. Vengeance III. Vultee-built Lend-Lease aircraft. Similar to IA USAF designation A31 VN. 200 built. Vengeance IV. A35B supplied under Lend-Lease to RAF and Raaf. 458 supplied to RAF and 121 to Raaf. US variants. XA31A. Redesignated prototype Vengeance accepted by USAF in June 1942. Vultee designation V88. XA31B. XA31A modified as testbed for 3000 HP, 2240 kilowatts, Pratt & Whitney XR4360-1 Wasp Major. XA31C. Vengeance III modified as testbed for 2200 HP, 1640 kilowatts, Wright R3350-18 duplex Cyclone engine. 1 converted. Ya-31C. Vengeance IIIs modified as test beds for R3350-17 engines for B-29 Superfortress. 5 built. A35A. Redesigned version for USAF and Lend-Lease. 4 degrees wing incidence. Powered by 1700 HP, 1269 kilowatts, R2600-13 or -8 engine. 4 forward firing .50 in, 12.7 mm, caliber M2 Browning machine guns and 1 in rear cockpit. Vultee designation V88. 99 aircraft built. A35B. Modified aircraft with 6 forward firing 0.50 in, 12.7 mm, machine guns and additional bomb racks. 831 built. TBV-1 Georgia. A35BS meant to be in service with the U.S. Navy, order cancelled. Operators. Australia. Royal Australian Air Force. Number 12 Squadron Raaf. Number 21 Squadron Raaf. Number 23 Squadron Raaf. Number 24 Squadron Raaf. Number 25 Squadron Raaf. Number 3 Communication Unit Raaf. Number 4 Communication Unit Raaf. Number 5 Communication Unit Raaf. Number 6 Communication Unit Raaf. Number 7 Communication Unit Raaf. Number 9 Communication Unit Raaf. Brazil. Brazilian Air Force. 1st Dive Bombing Squadron. 2nd Dive Bombing Squadron. France. Free French Air Force. GB-1 32nd Bourgogne. GB-1 17th Picardy. GB-2 15th Anjou. India British India. Indian Air Force. Number 7 Squadron IAF. Number 8 Squadron IAF. Number 1 Service Flying Training School. Number 22 Anti-Aircraft Cooperation Unit. Number 1 Target Towing Flight. United Kingdom. Royal Air Force. Number 45 Squadron RAF. Number 82 Squadron RAF. Number 84 Squadron RAF. Number 110 Squadron RAF. Number 288 Squadron RAF. Number 289 Squadron RAF. Number 291 Squadron RAF. Number 567 Squadron RAF. Number 577 Squadron RAF. Number 587 Squadron RAF. Number 595 Squadron RAF. Number 631 Squadron RAF. Number 667 Squadron RAF. Number 679 Squadron RAF. Number 691 Squadron RAF. Number 695 Squadron RAF. Royal Navy Fleet Air Arm. 721 Naval Air Squadron. 733 Naval Air Squadron. 791 Naval Air Squadron. United States. U.S. Army Air Force. 55th Bombardment Squadron, Dive. 56th Bombardment Squadron, Dive. 57th Bombardment Squadron, Dive. 88th Bombardment Squadron, Dive. 309th Bombardment Squadron, Dive. 311th Bombardment Squadron, Dive. 312th Bombardment Squadron, Dive. 623rd Bombardment Squadron, Dive. 628th Bombardment Squadron, Dive. 629th Bombardment Squadron, Dive. 630th Bombardment Squadron, Dive. 631st Bombardment Squadron, Dive. Specifications, Vengeance I. General characteristics. Crew, 2, pilot, navigator/gunner. Length, 39 feet 9 in, 12.12 m. Wingspan, 48 feet 0 in, 14.63 m. Height, 15 feet 4 in, 4.67 m. Wing area, 332 feet superscript 2, 30.84 square meters. Empty weight, 9,725 pounds, 4,411 kilograms. Max takeoff weight, 14,300 pounds, 6,486 kilograms. Power plant, 1 times Wright R2600A5B5 twin cyclone 14-cylinder radial air-cooled engine, 1,600 HP, 1,193 kilowatts. Performance. Maximum speed, 275 miles per hour, 239 knots, 443 kilometers per hour, at 11,000 feet, 3,350 m. Cruise speed, 235 miles per hour, 204 knots, 378 kilometers per hour. Range, 1,400 miles, 1,220 nmi, 2,253 kilometers. Service ceiling, 22,500 feet, 6,860 m. Wing loading, 43.1 lb/foot superscript 2, 210 kg/m superscript 2. Power/mass, 0.11 HP/lb, 0.18 kW/kg. Armament. Guns. 4 times fixed forward firing .30 in, 7.6 mm, Browning machine guns in the wing. 2 times flexible mount .30 in, 7.6 mm, or .303 in, 7.7 mm, machine guns in rear cockpit. Bombs. 2 times internal 500 pounds, 230 kilograms, bombs. 2 times 250 pounds, 110 kilograms, bomb on wing racks. Roll dive bomber. National origin United States. Manufacturer Vultee aircraft. First flight March 30, 1941. Retired April 1948. Primary users United States. United Kingdom. Australia. Number built 1931.
Please subscribe and thanks for watching.